Look who's here once again. Hey, let me sip a bit of water before we're going to start, and boom! Welcome back once again to our fourth part of this 10 years journey, fourth and last part. Today I'm gonna bring you from where I left you, which is start going for an expedition or to find the land, to this actual land. So the last bit of the story begin, so bear with me, we almost arrived. I was about to dive myself into the wild, literally, but where to start from? Well, when I was in Aotearoa, not in New Zealand, but in Aotearoa, there was an incredible, pure, untouched area where a big mountain was taking place called Tititea. This area touched me so much that I was like, one day I would love to live in an environment like that. Am I gonna be able to do that? And right now I was about to find it out. I was about to go back to Aotearoa to dive myself into the pure, shapeless shape of nature. This time I couldn't go back there with a working holiday visa. I needed to go there with a simple tourist visa. But I could gain access only if I would have a flight that would bring me outside of the country after a max of 3 months, which I booked to Fiji, and enough money that would have proved the custom that I could support myself during my stay, which also I could prove. I landed in a tiny town called Queenstown, in a very small domestic airport. Apart from me and a girl from Hong Kong, the rest of the people were all over 50 and white. Little details, but that will help you eventually to understand how the story ended up. So, it's another crazy one. Very crazy. So get yourself ready for it. Fasten your seatbelt and let's go for this new journey. So I arrived at the customs, no problem. They gave me the stamp. I proved them whatever they need to be proved, and I kept on going. I was actually checked out, about to pick up my luggage that was arriving on the tape. As soon as I take my backpack, I could see a man working, an official from the airport, staring at my passport, that he could clearly see that the color of the cover was not from New Zealand. It was a sort of small white man. His name was Steve. And he goes like, "Can I see your passport?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, of course." So he looks at it, "Oh, okay, Italy. What are you doing here?" And I explained to him that I was about to dive myself into the realm of nature, exploring that environment, exploring myself also. And I was like, "Oh, nice, okay. What did you book? Did you book any hostel, any trip, anything?" I said, "Oh, no, I'm just gonna go freestyle as I always did." "Ah, okay. Come with me. So he brought me into a little room and he started to interrogate me like FBI level. "What are you doing here? Are you sure you don't come here to work?" This was all his concern. That with the type of visa that I entered the country with, I was not allowed to do. Which was the last thing I wanted to do. The last thing I wanted to do was to go back into that exploitative environment, into that oppressive and polluted environment, into the racist environment, into the work-centric environment, into that Eurocentric environment, and getting lost into a world of superficialism and materialism. That was exactly what I told myself I do not want to do anymore. He was afraid I was trying to find my way into his own world illegally. I wanted to go back home, go back to Mother Nature. That's all I wanted to do. It was very much the opposite of whatever he was afraid of, whatever crime he was thinking I was about to commit. The deal was that he kept me there waiting in the room. He was going, doing some researches, coming back to me and delivering questions. At some point, he was even coming back and be like, "I went on your Facebook and I checked that I've seen that you had a bike before, traveling with a bike." I said, yeah, see, you can see that I've been, often going around freestyling. "Yes, but where is the bicycle right now?" And I was like, "I gave it away while in Nepal." Why? He was just trying to dig and prove to himself that I was going there not to actually travel or to do any expeditions, but to work. There was nothing else that I could have done to convince the man. Now, of course, if I would have managed to survive within that environment that I was about to go and explore, if I was about to also thrive, most likely I would have stayed there. That was my idea, was to dive fully within the realm of nature for good. This was not what the man was concerned whatsoever. His concern was that I was going to work in his own colonized world, but also this action, going back fully to nature and staying there, wouldn't be illegal. And this is exactly the problem, the Western problems. This is exactly what colonization did. Colonizer went there, made their own rules, secluded themselves in the area after taking all the resources, and then be like, "Oh, now nobody can come here." You invader, if somebody on earth could have the right to say something like this, are the indigenous people of the land, no you recent invader. But this was not even the problem of me staying in the wild. The crime that he was thinking I was about to commit was that I was going to work in his own world, which was the last thing I wanted to do for real. So, long story short, he kept me there for 8 hours. 8 hours. And go figure, the other person that was also kept there for quite a long time was the other girl from Hong Kong. All the other white men and lady, they just easily went back home. But as for me and the lady from Hong Kong, we're kind of stuck on their room getting questioned very insanely. Racism? Go figure, go figure. Hey, this world, insane. But the story didn't end up there. After 8 hours, he goes like, well, me and my colleagues checked whatever you told us. I was like, which colleagues? And we came up with the conclusion that whatever you said has no credibility. Therefore, I need to send you back to where you came from, which was London. And I was like, wait, what? So he canceled the stamp that they gave me on the passport, saying that they would have sent me back to London. But you think the story ends up here. The story just starts here. So I'm going back to London. But, he goes like, our airport here is domestic, and we don't operate flights at night. On top of it, we cannot host anybody that has been rejected due to our facility that is very small. Next thing he tells me is, since we don't have any facility, the only legal facility that we have to be sent legally is for you to be sent to jail. Wait, what? I was like, what? Are you sending me to jail? He was like, yes, indeed, I need you to sign this paper saying that you are going to jail without having committed any crime. And I was like, huh? There's any other way, I can go and come? No, we can't, because nobody will guarantee us that you will not leave and so on. And I was like, well, I've never been in jail before. I guess for the sake of experience, let me go for it. And I didn't blame the man. To be honest, in the end, I saw somebody that was very insecure and working in a context where certain people gave power and authority to this individual. And of course, if you give an insecure person power, he will most likely abuse it. I did my best into explaining my truth. He took whatever he could have taken from it. In the end, he sent me to jail. And I remember also shaking his hand. I was like, okay, well, what to do? And I could feel his embarrassment when I was shaking his hand, because I truthfully proved that I was not the bad guy that he needed to look for. But in the end, life, there's also the need of acceptance, and I accepted. The only thing that also was written on the paper was also that they couldn't keep me legally on that jail for more than 4 days. After 4 days, they needed me to release, and then if they would have found a flight later on, I would have got the duty to go back to the airport on my own. I didn't know why this couldn't take place already in the first place, but apparently that was their procedure. So I got sent to the police office in the airport. I needed to deliver my belongings there, also to leave my passport there. And then with the police car, I was sitting next to the police on the car, and we went to jail. So now we arrived in jail. It was not like a big jail with a lot of people, prisoners and so on. What there was a kind of expecting was actually more of a police office with like 4 to 5 isolation cells. Those cells where in movies criminals are misbehaving and they get sent into isolation. This is the place where I was sent. I was jet lagged, I was quite confused, but still I got sent in there, and in this room there was literally no windows. It was just a closed room, was a very tiny room, a concrete platform, on top of it a foam bed, a bed sheet, a pillow. Next to it there was the toilet and also a sink. The only crime that I committed was to try to be free. How insane is that? How insane. There was only one tiny squared window on the door. That was the only way where I could see the outside, that I couldn't control if it was closed or open. I was arrived in the evening, so it was night once I get to the jail. So I tried to fall asleep, and they just closed that thing. They just closed that little window. It was even kind of claustrophobic, I must say. But I managed to fall asleep, and then I remember all of a sudden waking up. The feeling where you wake up and you don't know where you're at kind of thing. I was like, okay, I'm in this place, I'm in jail, but where are the people? What's going on? So what time is it? I didn't know anything. So I started to knock the door, hello, and nobody was replying. After maybe, I believe it was 10 minutes, a police lady, opened the little window. I was like, yeah, what's going on? I was like, what's going on? You tell me, I don't know. How long shall I still stay here? When am I gonna get out of here? When I'm gonna take my flight back to London? And they were like, oh, we don't know. We're still working on it. And I was like, please, can you send me to at least another place where a bit more spacious? I was literally into 2 square meters and was too much. So they sent me into another cell that was slightly bigger, was maybe 4 square meter, but still same situation. Was an artificial light in there that was never off. Day, night was always on. They gave me food. They literally gave me some sandwiches, a tea, and a banana. They literally opened a little window from that door, handled me the food from the outside, and me taking in the food while I was inside the cell. I was literally treated like the biggest criminal on earth. I was like, guys, do you realize what are you doing? They were like, yes, we know it. It's just that whoever comes here, we have the duty to treat them just as any other criminals. We know that you didn't do anything, but once you get sent here, we have no choice. And I could feel also they were a bit upset, also especially with the airport. It gave them extra work that they could easily avoid. And right now they have extra nonsense to deal with. I remember after a little while, it was afternoon, and they told me, okay, unfortunately, we couldn't find a flight today, so we're gonna try it for tomorrow. I was like, wow. Can I at least please go and take a shower? They made me wait an hour before taking a shower because somebody needed to escort me to the shower. There was literally 1 meter distance from the cell where I was, and this person needed to wait for me while I was showering. I was like, guys, are you serious? Like, really? Then they sent me back to the cell. Then I was like, please, can I at least have some fresh air? Can I? And they were like, sorry, we can't. And I looked at this lady, this police officer. I looked in her eyes and I said, you know that you could be my mother, literally. Would you treat your son like that? Imagine your son traveling somewhere else, and next thing he knows, he's in a jail. He's not even able to call anybody. You don't even know where this person is. How would you react? And I could feel the guiltiness in her heart, but guess what? She didn't open the door in order to let me have the fresh air. I was stuck there. Another day went by. At some point I accepted it, so I didn't fight with it anymore. I was just dancing in the room. The teacup that they gave me was out of paper, so I was saving them. And then I made a little basket, and then I was playing basketball kind of thing. I needed to just survive. Every now and then they were looking and be like, this guy, what is he doing? Maybe they thought I was getting mad, but it was, for me, my only way to keep my spirit alive, because my mind was ready to go and meet freedom, to meet nature, to meet fresh air. And I ended up literally in the opposite environment. And it was for me quite traumatic, I must say. So I needed to shake it off somehow. So I give thanks that I have the strength in order to just have a laugh about it. It was the morning of the 3rd day, and they were like, we found the flight, but in this circumstance, you are the one who needs to pay for the expenses. And I was like, no. You sent me here. You didn't allow me to come here, and I already wasted my money to come here. So if you want me to go back, whatever, you send me back. By then, I also had the confidence because I knew that by law, they could only keep me there for another day. So I was like, I don't care. Tomorrow I'm going to leave anyhow. So let them pay at least. There's no way I'm going to spend $1,000 just for their own choice. So I kept it there. I stayed there. And then in the same afternoon, they came to me and was like, okay, Joshua, you can go. So next things I know, they escorted me all the way back to the airplane, actually. And people were watching me, like with these police people, not handcuffed, luckily, but still, I was like, so, like, what is going on here? But I was not even blaming them. They were just puppet used by an exploitative and oppressive system. They needed to get paid in order to survive. As for me, by then I went beyond them. I accepted whatever they needed to do. And I decided to actually look at them with a smile, shaking their hands before they left, thanking them for escorting me all the way there and actually let me skip the queue at least. And they were a bit confused because they were like, is it taking a piece of us or what? But I was not. So that's all. I went back in the airplane, and next things I know, I'm in London. Boom. Some friends hosted me in their house. I lost a lot of money, of course, and also a lot of hope. But I couldn't get myself down. There was no way that this little accident would have stopped me from achieving the life that I needed to live. So I kept on researching which other environment could be good for me in order to dive in. Next things I know is that the very similar environment that was hosting also a lot of similar purity was in Patagonia. So I was like, let me go to Patagonia. But in the meantime, I needed to recover some of the money in order to afford the journey to go there. I worked for about a month, and then winter was approaching the southern hemisphere. So it was virtually impossible for me to start and embracing this new chapter within the harshness of the winter. I was waiting. In the meantime, I ended up in Amsterdam, working over there just to change a little bit of the environment, meeting up also with new people. And then there was somebody that I knew from Jamaica that was trying to do a little organic farm in his grandmother's land. And he invited me to go there and to help him out. So while I was waiting for the warmer southern hemisphere period, I ended up accepting this invitation. His name was Tion, such a nice guy. We met up actually in California. And yeah, we were experimenting a lot of farming indigenous technique, a lot of permaculture techniques, also trying simply to grow up various different kinds of food. Also myself trying to build different shelters and so on. It was a nice experience altogether, and also embracing the beauty of Jamaica, the land of wood and water. And then yeah, the time arrived for me to go towards this expedition. So next things I know, I managed to arrive to Patagonia. I went to a few different areas. They were very incredibly beautiful. Some of them next to the oceans or surrounded by rivers and beautiful, incredible mountains. Yet I got to know that with the knowledge that I had, I could definitely survive, but because of the harshness, in order to thrive, I needed to have local ancestral knowledge that I didn't have necessarily a lot of access to. I felt that, so next things I know, I'm going to the so-called Rocky Mountains in Canada. And I challenged myself to stay there as long as possible. But what I didn't consider were the wildfires. They were still very distant, but their smoke were very much invading the whole area. So once I went there, the sun was pretty much covered all day long and was very, very cold. It was incredibly cold, to the point that I was risking hypothermia on a daily basis. But thanks to the knowledge that I already gained, I managed to went there with no food, no tent, and I built my own little shelter, and I was making my own fire very cautiously, of course. And the fire literally saved my life. In the meantime, I was going hunting. I managed to hunt some birds, some quails, gathering some mushrooms with the little knowledge that I had, trying to fishing. It was a very beautiful and wild environment. Also, the wildlife was very strong. I could see huge bear tracks all around, elk tracks all around, but I couldn't see them. I later on discovered they actually migrated elsewhere because of the fire. They were approaching closer and closer. So isolated without seeing any human being, not even any mammals. The only thing I could see were some little species here and there and mosquitoes. One day I woke up like literally covered by smoke. I felt the urge to myself migrate back to the town. I was still searching. And then I was like, okay, let me try to go to Europe, because it was the place where also I could bureaucratically easily stay there. I went to the Italian Alps to check the areas. I went to the Italian Apennines. I went to various European islands. I went to the French Alps, yet I couldn't find that environment that could truthfully be giving me that self-sustainable natural life as yet. And then I ended up to Milan, in my father's house, eating at his place, talking to him. And then I was sharing with him the expedition that I was going through in the last period. And he goes like, but do you know that we have lands in Ghana? What turns out is that my great-grandparents from the late 19th century left in heritage pieces of land distributed around Ghana. In the first place, they obtained independence in the whole of Africa. Felt to me that was the first place that accepted new colonialism or accepted the new law of westernization. This at least was what I was thinking back then. I knew that Ghana was incredibly westernized, that the story of the white Jesus took very much all over the whole of Ghana, and that there was very little acceptance towards whatever path was unconventional, also on a social level. All of this kept me some sort of away from Ghana until this point. And then boom, next things I know, I'm in Ghana, back home, after the figlio prodigo, the prodigal son, back in his homeland, after a lifetime, literally. All these lands that were left in heritage were lost. My uncle was the elder of the family. He really liked the fact that I was interested in these lands because otherwise we would have disrespect the willingness of our great-grandparents, our great-grandfather, or Chiame Yawesiedu, that he left all of this for us and nobody ended up taking good care of it because of modernization, literally. Who goes to Accra, who goes to Abroche, to abroad, and everybody's forgetting about the most precious thing that we have on earth, which is earth, the land. So my uncle was definitely super glad that I was interested, and he was a huge support in the journey of finding this land. He was the one who was talking was managing okay, let's go here, let's go there, let's talk to this person, let's go to the other person. And I was the one that I was going for the expedition and checking how's the land, where is the land, where are the borders, what is the property of the land, how much water is here, how much water is there. So it was a very good teamwork. It was incredibly challenging. Was going, meeting people, talking, days, weeks. I got to know that, Ghana is not the place where you can trust the word of anybody. You need to be careful who you listen to. It's just the way it is here, especially in that context. Something also most culturally. Here, nobody can truthfully say, I don't know. So especially if he's an elder, he cannot really tell you that he doesn't know. And sometimes you can easily get misled. And that was the challenges that we were facing. But thanks to my uncle, we could filter all that information. Eventually, we found the lands. My great-grandparents already started to do cocoa farms in most of these lands. But also, we used the record from my great-grandfather in order to locate them. There was some records also that were stating that some of these lands that we talk about, acres of land, were purchased for £5, which shows really like a whole different era. The small or big investment that he did, it was still something that he did. And so the job between my uncle and I came to an end, and it was time for me to decide and to feel if one of these land was providing me with whatever I was looking for. What was I looking for? I was looking for a land that was virtually untouched, from an area that was very much quiet, less populated, with still quite a good amount of resources. And there was one land in particular that was pretty much on that page. It was kind of close from a main road, but not too close, was about an hour walking. Close to a village, but not too close, was half an hour walking. And the land itself was virtually untouched. The only thing about this land is that water was not in the land. But guess what? I decided to try it. I decided to invest myself in the land and to see what could have come out of it. I was still staying at my uncle's house, and next things I know, I was traveling to the land on a daily basis with a trotro for 1 hour and a half, with a shovel, with a hoe, with a bucket, and start digging, looking for water. Why did I start digging in that spot in particular? I don't know. I just felt that that was the right spot, and I started digging, day after day, until the point where I couldn't easily get out anymore. So from the close by village, I asked somebody to come and help me out. And so together we kept on digging. We reached about 5 meters depth and still no water. Then another person also came to help out, digging. We reached 7 meters and then we hit a rock. Boom. What I did, I brought a specialist that was having a sort of GPS that apparently was detecting where the aquifers were underneath. And it turns out that the water was down 182 meters. And I was like, Aish! It was definitely not possible to keep on digging by hands. And also with a borrow would have become even more expensive than what already was. And I couldn't afford it whatsoever. My budget, my money were very, very counted. And I needed to make very smart movement. And my uncle actually suggested, well, since you already did all this job, go and get a few bags of cement, plaster it yourself, and at least you create a water tank. And I was like, guess what? I'll do it. I didn't want to use cement. I never liked cement. I didn't know anything else that could be replaced instead of it. So I was like, okay, let me find my compromise and let me use cement at least to contain the water inside. So I was plastering it, and it was quite rough also because alone going inside the hole and making sure that I was coming back alive. I was using a ladder in order to go down, a self-built ladder with bamboo, a very long ladder. And one time I remember that I was giving the third layer of plastering and I was down the bottom of the tank, was in need of more cement. So I was going up and boom, the first step of the ladder breaks. Not a big deal. There's a second step, so I'm going there, boom. Also the second steps break. The heart started pumping a little. I got on the third step, boom, breaks. The fourth step breaks. I was like, the ladder was just breaking apart. I don't know how and in which way, but somehow I just get out of the hole. And that was the last time I went down there. I managed to finish the little well. I made a little bamboo roof that was functioning as a water collector. It was all experimental level, of course. I didn't know if anything yet was efficient. I was just in need to experiment and to feel the land, to feel the soil, to feel myself within that environment. So the water tank was now finished. I was just in need to wait for the rain. In the meantime, I adapted myself and I was like, guess what? I can try to invest myself even deeper, even more, and try to build something in here. But in order to do that, I cannot afford to go up and down from Accra to here on a daily basis. So I moved inside. I moved in the land. I brought a little folding bed. I had a bed sheet. I had a mosquito net. I had a tarp in case of water. And that was all I had when I first moved in. I built a little kind of kitchen that was functioning with fire, and I was feeding myself literally with all the fruits that were still sprouting. The land was actually full of resources. There were papaya, there were bananas, there were plantain, and there was also cocoa. On top of it, I was buying also some instant noodles in case my energy were running out too much. So within this rhythm, I started to build a little house. I tried with bamboo and rope, and the whole structure collapsed. I was feeling a little bit upset, but was still part of the game. I needed to learn through trials and mistakes. So I learned from my mistakes, and next things I know, I started to build a little bit differently with a different type of wood, with a different type of leaves, and eventually I had my first little hut, a very nice, cozy hut, my first fully self-built home. And then after the hut was ready, it was time for me to also have a little toilet. So I also built that toilet. It was a bucket system in order to create also fertilizer through compost. And then I also started to plant some little seeds in order to test the ground and to see how it was working, to the point where some little plants were growing. In all of this, the biggest challenge were sandflies. Sandflies were not joking. They were really shaping my whole experience in that land because they were really vicious, like vicious. I was not really capable of seeing myself living there until I started to adapt more and more to understand in which circumstances they are more intense, in which they are less. So small, I started to adapt and to eventually feel at ease in a very new land that eventually started to become more and more my home. This land that we are talking about is this very land where you see me talking from right now. And this is where the new journey begins. There was only one person that was coming here to visit me, to make sure that I was fine, sometimes also bringing me some banku and food. This was Ama, also known as Emma, also known as Sisi Emma, but you might have known her as Auntie Emma. Hey, she was literally the only one that was coming because her farm was actually not too far from this very land. After farming, she was coming here just to double check, hey, how's it going, how's everything? And sometimes she was dropping some nice banku and stew. I appreciated her gesture. And so in the meantime, through Auntie Emma, I started to get involved within the close by village, the village of Mancron. It was very interesting to re-embrace my roots, especially after traveling the whole world, feeling acceptance all over the world in places where I was not from whatsoever, arriving in Ghana and finding, once again, not accepted. I was like, wait, what? I'm home, hello everyone. So it was such a thing, psychologically it was so hard to accept because in the two places where I was from, Italy and Ghana, I was seen as a complete outsider, long story short. In Italy, I'm a black man, and then I'm coming in Ghana, and I'm what? An Obroni. Obroni is translatable as stranger, also white man. When I was going around, people were calling me Obroni, and I was like, why do you call me Obroni? And they were like, because you are white. I'm like, me? Like, white? Yeah. I was actually getting mocked a lot. Right now I can maybe kind of have a laugh about it, but at first my heart was crying. I remember me walking with the bucket, with the shovel and so on, and people be like, look at the white man going too far. And having a nice laugh about it. Getting invited in Auntie Emma's place in order to eat some nice banku. People just showing up in her house, looking at me and be like, ha! White man eating banku, wow. Or maybe me trying to speak tree. My tree, unfortunately, was non-existent. So I was trying to learn and me trying to speak and people just having a nice laugh while I was trying. The laugh was not with bad intention, I must say. It was not like I'm laughing because you don't speak right. It was mainly a laughing like, wow, like a white man that speaks Chi. What a world we live in. It was this kind of laugh that was still very much painful to me to hear. I remember imagining myself in Italy, eating a nice pizza outside in a restaurant and somebody stopping and be like, hey, look at a black man eating pizza. You know, I'm not a violent guy whatsoever, but most likely in that context. But I couldn't compare the two social contexts at all. To my personal feelings was actually receiving the same thing. Rejection. In the meantime, I couldn't compare the two social contexts because literally a place like Ghana was actually a victim of racism and couldn't be racist in the first place just because of the nature of its history. But in my heart was definitely rejection from a place that I was belonging to. Eventually, also through the help of Auntie Emma, I definitely started to be more and more involved within the community. And it didn't take long before people stopped calling me Obroni and started to call me Esiedu. And to hear the name of my great-grandparents named again in this village. And by the way, my great-grandfather was one of the first person that created this village of Mancron. It was the Ochiame in the Aquapem, and it became also the Ochiame in this village. So even just by blood, I own that. And coming back here and living the life that was lived even by the ancestors of my great-grandparents was, for me and also for some people of the village, a sort of a sense of pride. Through the first hut that I built, I learned a few things, especially about the environment, especially what would have been the best place that could give me the best sleep, the best rest and best protection. So I realized a few things, and within this realization, I decided to build another shelter. And this was a sort of storage room, and where a kitchen and a chilling out little area was taking place, and then a ladder would have brought me upstairs and having the bed that was facing the view of the hills. I took about a few weeks to build that shelter. It was a very nice experience also to embrace a different type of wood, by the way, that was more durable and so on. And so I started to feel more integrated within a community. I started to feel more integrated, especially within the land, and last but not least, within myself. And then through my Instagram page, that on those days was still relatively small, people started to approach, like, oh, I would like to come and visit. I couldn't imagine people being able to come and to stay here without going through a sort of a period of adaptation, especially because of the sandflies, because of the harshness of the environment. The heat was very strong. The people came, so it was a group from the United States, and I hosted them for a couple of days. And I was shocked to see how at ease they were. And I realized, wow, I really managed to build a place that can welcome also people that come in directly from a Western environment. And that was for me quite of a big revelation, because I knew there were a lot of people looking for their natural roots. And so I started to feel that this was the call, to create a bridge in between the two, the Western modern world and the indigenous ancient one. We are now 2018. I'm 27 years old. In all this journey, all until this point, almost 10 years passed, and nature gave me so much, and taught me so much. There was time for me to share whatever I learned with others, especially from people from the West, conditioned to live in a context that pollutes and actually kills Mother Nature herself. So I felt it almost like a responsibility to share how to live in harmony, how to live in symbiosis and alignment with Mother Nature, in order also to give back to Mother Nature herself. So I started to think of creating these programs, this sort of workshop, this sort of retreats, where Westerners could have come and learn and gain the experience to reconnect to their roots. So by the stage, I got to clearly see that the West was here to stay and it was not going anywhere. And was a bit naive and stupid from my side to keep on rejecting it or to fight against it. So I decided to take whatever could be used from the West and use it as a tool in order to implement and expand the vision of natural self-sustainability. One of the things that definitely could be used was the monetary system. Yeah, coming from a context where I was used and depending on money, but now I already started to live also a life that was quite self-sustainable, being able to build with local resources, to grow my own food. It was important for me to know that I was having an environment where money or no money, I was thriving. So money in that context could have been used only as a tool. So I decided to use that tool in order to embrace and to expand this vision. Also towards the local Bai village. There were few members of the community that were preserving a lot of ancient wisdom, and the idea was to create a program where also themselves would function as teachers, teaching people coming from a Western context how to heal themselves, how to make potteries, how to grow naturally. So the vision was also to create a micro business for them that would allow them to gain extra income, especially to this type of farmers that they were based their main crop on cacao. And we all know the cacao and the chocolate industry is another unfair industry where the farmers, the one that are placing the most of the work, are the one that are getting the less of the money. So creating extra income also for a few members of the nearby community was also part of the vision. So I spent 6 months in this very land before I decided to go abroad and gather some funds in order to embrace this vision. So I went abroad, I worked a little bit here and there as a coach, martial art, various techniques, some small retreats and programs. And then after 6 months, boom, I was ready to come back in the land and to start embracing this whole vision. Now, I guess my storytelling finishes right here. This episode also finishes right here. This fourth part finishes right here, because with the upcoming video, I will bring you directly into the land. We'll show you the actual process that took place in order to go towards this vision, to not only go towards it, but to embrace this vision, to actualize this vision, and to play our part into making the change that we all want to see. I will get you through the various details that also were in need in order to build the same house that right now I've been sitting in these days and talking to you, and also to build the dome, to build the toilet, to build the whole place that eventually right now we can safely and beautifully call home. So stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to turn on your notification, and of course to share it. Share it with whoever you feel like. So far, it's been a pleasure, and I'll catch you later for real. Aish!